Hello, welcome to the Mystery Witch School for another Facebook Live. And welcome to those of you already in the chat. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Christian. So happy to be here. Awesome. Yes, happy to be here too. Okay. Today we're talking about spellcasting. I was just going to go through my spellcaster checklist and I'll tell you how you can get one of those as well for free. Hello, Lewis. But before we dive into all of that, I am going to just say hello to everybody watching the replay as well, because I know that's a lot of people watch the replay. I watch replays. I rarely am ever on a live for other people's channels. And welcome to those of you who are new to Mystery Witch School as well, to this channel. We talk about most things Wicca and witchcraft, shadow work, tarot, and of course, magic, which is part of witchcraft. And I have a pretty eclectic view on most things, actually, and witchcraft and Wicca I'm pretty eclectic on. So even though I have worked in Wiccan traditions, my way of working personally is eclectic, because as we evolve, we start to learn different things, and so I like to incorporate all of that into my work. So you'll find on this channel that there'll be possibly different points of view and different ways of looking at Wicca and witchcraft. I also take a very spiritual view as well. So it's coming from a place where we can turn this into a practice that actually brings joy and peace and happiness and that inner empowerment, and also that search for purpose, that search for the true self as well. So it's more than just practicing magic to try and manipulate the outside world. It's really about practicing that inner magic so that we can make the changes within ourselves, so that the outside world automatically kind of changes to suit where it is we're really, really passionately going. And that's where the real magic is. It's realizing it's actually within each and every one of us. And if you want to grab a copy of the Spellcaster checklist and you're watching the replay, there is a link in the description field below this video. And I will put the link to the Spellcaster checklist in the chat now as well, so you can see where it is. But you can always go to my website, mysterywitchschool.com, and you may find it on there. I'm not in one of my blogs. I'm not sure if I've actually got it there. That's to be easily found. So yeah, have a look on my YouTube channel to see where the link is. And welcome now to Josie and Swakfan and Nikki and Moira. Hello. Awesome. So at Mystery Witch School too, for those of you who are new, I also run courses in Wicca and witchcraft. I run courses in tarot, working with tarot with both the knowledge of the tarot and your intuition, and also in shadow work as well with the chakras. So there's 3 different things that you can do so far at Mystery Witch School. In the future, I'm looking at working at doing something with magic. It's just knowing what angle to come in with regard to more advanced magic or magic that's more focused. Okay, so today we're looking at spell casting and creating effective spells, successful spells. And one key thing that I think we always need to think about when we're doing magic or anything really is to know that we only ever have the present moment. So we can only ever be in the now. So when we're thinking of the future or we're thinking of what we don't have, we're not really in the now. So we need to be in the now with our spells. We need to be in the now, the present moment, with the result that we want to achieve in our magic. So that means we have to live as if it's already been fulfilled and experience that on an emotional level. The energy in magic is an emotional energy, and that is what propels the behavior that we that we will put into the action here in the real world or the 3D world. And it's also what we send out to the universe, and it's how the spirits that we're working with, if you're working with spirits or deities, understand what it is that we want. It's actually through our emotions and how we feel about things. So it's really important to understand we only ever have the present moment, and when we are doing spell crafting and when we're creating a spell, we're doing it all in the present moment. And that desire that we have as the result of the spell is something that is also got to be a present moment experience in the psyche anyway, even if it's not necessarily perceived in the 3D world around us. And that's not an easy thing to achieve. It's really tough doing that. We're not taught to do that. We're taught to think in the future, or we're taught to hold on to the past. We're not taught to be in the present moment. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of magicians, particularly, or anybody in the esoteric field, we do a lot of meditation so that we can get used to being in the present moment. So with the spellcaster checklist, it's sort of an abridged version of a checklist that I have in the Mystery Witch School 101 course, which is my 12-month course on Wicca and Witchcraft. And it goes through the basics of casting a spell. Spell casting's actually quite easy. It's something you can do yourself. It's something everyone can do themselves. I know a lot of people want to pay other people to do spells for them, which is fine. Maybe some people just aren't into magic, aren't interested, don't really want to do that. It's just not something they enjoy doing. So I can understand why you may want to outsource it to somebody else, but it's really better if you can do your own spells. And I'm assuming that everybody here today is probably already practicing magic or has an interest at least in learning to practice magic if you're new to it. But the first thing we need to understand is we have to know what we want in the first place. You've got to know what you want and be clear on what it is that you want when you're doing your spell. And sometimes that's not clear. Sometimes, believe it or not, we don't really know what we want. We might think we know what we want, but it's not really what we want. And when I say what we want to manifest, it's usually a thing or a situation or a person that's kind of in that sense of being external to ourselves. And we feel that by having that job, having that money, having that relationship, having the better health, that we're certainly going to have a much more improved feeling in life. We're going to feel a lot better. And that's true, particularly when it comes to health. You're definitely going to feel better if you have good health. And you are going to feel safer and more secure and probably have a much more um, easier life too if you've got the money there that you need to have. But what we're really, really looking for when it comes to magic isn't just the thing. So the thing is, or the situation's one aspect that we need to be clear about. But the most important thing is how you want to feel as a result of having that situation or that person or that thing. Because that feeling of feeling free, for example, having money, for if you're doing a prosperity spell, you're probably after the freedom, the sense of freedom that money can give you. That sense of I can go out there and do what I want to do. I can buy what I want to buy. I can have what I want to have. I can do the things that I maybe haven't been doing. And you can feel that sense of autonomy and freedom in having a certain amount of income coming in or money in the bank or whatever it is you need the money for. So it's a feeling of freedom. And it can also be a feeling of safety and security as well. Just feeling safe that you've got the money there to pay the bills can be a place to start. But you want to go beyond the safety and security. You want to get into the sense of that freedom that it can give you. When it comes to maybe manifesting a relationship, what is the feeling that you want to experience? You want to feel love. You want to be able to feel what it's like to give love and to receive love, the joy of companionship with another person, being able to share experiences together, share all sorts of things that you have in common with each other. So you're looking really at the feeling side of what it is that you want to. So when we say make sure that first and foremost, you know what it is that you want, understand what you want to feel, and then go from there. Because when you start to realize, I really just want to feel free. I want to feel like I've got more choices in my life. And having more money will make me feel like I've got more choices. So, what does it feel like to know that you've got choices, that you can choose this or that you're not tied down to only being able to choose one thing because you don't have the money to have more choice? And what does that feel like? And then as you go from that feeling, you may realize that it's maybe not necessarily it's not actually the money you want. Particularly with money, it's usually not the money we want. It's actually the feeling of freedom and choices and security and safety that we're looking for. And understand what that is, because that can come from many, many different places. And you may decide that, or discover that when you feel into the feeling of what it is that you want, it's not actually the first thing you thought you wanted, might not be actually the thing, it might be something else. So if you're looking to, maybe you're feeling you need that sense of freedom and you'd like to have the choice to be able to have a car rather than catch public transport, or have the choice between both of them, you may decide that a car is something you might really want. So instead of going for money, you might actually go for a spell for a car, because the car is going to be much more directly related to what it is that you're wanting to feel or wanting to experience. So getting clear about those things is really, really important. Okay. Nikki says, are we talking about new moon spells? New moon, all spells. All spells. We've got the new moon coming up tomorrow. New moons are wonderful for doing spells to bring things in, to begin things. You want to wait a few days after the new moon, though, to really do those spells and grow things, because it's sort of a growing phase of the moon. So building things, growing things are great to do for new moon. And understanding then the real reason. So at the beginning of the spellcaster checklist, I talk about aim, and under aim, there's about four different things, four different questions. The first one is what do I want to manifest? And then what is the real reason for wanting this? And that's where you just get down to what I want to feel. What do I want to feel? And you might find, again, just getting that far, you realize that, hey, I thought I was going to do a spell for this thing, but now that I know what I'm really wanting feeling wise, and what I expect to feel at the end of it, maybe I'll be better off doing the spell for something else. So it really helps you get clear about what it is that you're wanting to manifest in the first place. And the third question is, how do I expect to feel once I have this? And that's a really important thing to hold on to and write down, because that's the feeling you need to get into when you're actually doing the spell. Okay. And how realistic is the aim? We do need to think about how realistic something is when it comes to doing a spell. While you can also do magic, and certainly law of assumption and law of attraction work for something that just could seem like it needs an absolute miracle to be able to happen, and still do spell work for that. Totally, totally support doing that. And I think it's always good to really be in the feeling of the big picture as well, that you're experiencing the big thing, even though the big thing might be difficult to even imagine how you're going to have it or how it could possibly happen. Looking at doing a spell like that, you can look at that as your big spell, the big goal spell, and then dividing it up into micro spells or smaller spells to get you on the road to that bigger goal. Because if you do a spell for the big thing, you may find that inspiration might come to you where you'll have thoughts and ideas about what you could do. And you may need to then do spell work to help those thoughts and ideas come along. So when you're breaking that up and you're inspired to do something, you may have, for example, a desire to bring in an extra $1,000 a month, and you're in a job where you can't really get a promotion, or they're not offering it, and you're trying to figure out, okay, you do a spell for that extra $1,000. You might get an idea for a side hustle or something, And then that is the result of that spell. So then you could then do a spell for creating that side hustle and then help the side hustle along through various different approaches to magic. So it's sort of breaking things down that way and just looking at how realistic it is. Lotto spells, yes, people do win the lotto, but most people don't. And doing a spell for the lotto is fine and okay. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you want to spell for a lot of money, you're better off just going general and just focusing on the feeling of what it feels like to have that sort of money rather than trying to focus on one way of getting it. So it's looking at being realistic with your spells and understanding that a big goal spell, like having $1 million suddenly land in your lap, for example, it's probably not gonna it might not bring you $1 million straight away, but it might bring you some ideas that you could implement, to do that, and so then you can do magic for those things. And another question that's good to ask too is, if I was going to do this without doing magic, how would I go about doing it? And just have a think about the various different ways that you could go about achieving your goal, even if you weren't doing magic. And as you work out those various different ways, look at ways that you might enjoy, ways that may feel good to you, and then you can do magic to actually do spells for to help those ways. So for example, you might want a relationship, you might want to meet somebody, and so you think of all the different ways that you can meet someone. You can meet someone through friends, you can meet someone through social groups, you can meet someone online, you could meet someone at the bus stop, you could meet someone practically anywhere. So have a think about all of the various different places that you can meet somebody, and how what sort of behaviors or what sort of things would you need to look at in yourself to be able to put yourself in a situation where you are open to meeting somebody in various different places. So it's always good just to have that practical look of how things could possibly come to you as you're planning your spell work, because a spell could quite possibly bring one of those ideas to you rather than bringing you the thing straight away. It might just bring you an idea that can help, that's like a step along the way to getting the thing or the situation, rather than bringing the thing to you immediately. And what would a good result look like to you? What would it look like if the spell worked for you? How would that how would that look? And even though you're sort of planning the steps that you do, you'd look at the steps that you could do if you weren't using magic along the way. Uh, it doesn't mean that that's you focusing on how the magic's going to work, because you might find if there's lots of different options for you of how you could make how it could happen for you, that you see that there's lots of different avenues for the way that magic can work. It could work through A, B, C, D, or E option, and there's probably even an F, G, uh, H option there that you wouldn't even have thought of, that the magic can actually come through. So there's all these different ways that things can happen, and it's allowing you to open yourself up to all of the different possibilities of the way something can come to you before you do the spell. And then look at perhaps any obstacles or anything that might be in your way, so that you can do a obstacle removing spell or a road opener spell first. So before you do a spell to bring something into your life or a situation, if you feel that there's anything blocking it, then do your obstacle removing spell first, and or road opener first, so that then clears the way so that you can bring in to you what it is that you're wanting. And so have a think about, are there any obstacles in the way? Am I in the way? And like, as yourself, do you get in your own way with things? And if you get in your own way, how do you then do the work with the inner work to help you maybe have more confidence or feel good enough to do the thing that you want to do, have the thing that you want to have, experience the situation that you want to have. So do a little bit of a dive into your own ways that you may stop things from happening for you the way that you want them to, simply because of self-sabotage and beliefs about not being good enough or not deserving, or things don't happen to people like me, various different beliefs that are very, very, very common. And then do an obstacle removing spell to help you look at that. And an obstacle removing spell or a road opener spell, if it's yourself blocking your path, it will often highlight what those beliefs are. So you'll discover what those beliefs are, and then you can work on those beliefs. Okay, dark moon tonight. Yes. I would be careful about money spells. I wouldn't want someone to die and leave me an inheritance or get hurt for an insurance payoff. Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about money spells for those things sort of happening. Remember that when you're doing magic, it's not just about you either. It's also about things lining up. So other people's um, part that other people play has to line up as well. So it's as much about their own destiny and their own what they're bringing into their own lives as well. So if you do a money spell and the only way that money can come to you is if something happens and you collect insurance, then yeah, maybe in your spell work for money, you want to feel the joy of receiving that money in a way that is joyful for you to receive. So when we come to actually doing the spell, the way that you feel the wish fulfilled of the spell is going to have an influence on how that happens. So I wouldn't worry too much about money spells harming other people for that, or if you are feeling into the money coming to you in a way that's actually joyful and happy for you, and feeling that in a very, very positive way. Could you work on someone's computer and they are so happy with your work that they give you a $10,000 donation? I guess it's possible. That's a lot for a donation, but some people do. There has been stories of people that have done that. So there's different ways that money could come in. People can give you a tip. Um, yeah, it's just opening yourself up to all of the different possibilities, but also knowing that if you've got no way of bringing in money, then you have to start feeling as if you do have money, and then you'll know if you're feeling into that, it's about making the decisions and choices based on that feeling and acting on how that feeling would cause you to act. So it's changing your behavior. Magic does a lot of work through changing behavior than necessarily bringing something, straight in front of you. Okay. What about spells that could thin the veil in order for me to sense vibrations in the energy around me better? Is this a dumb thing to ask? Um, I'd probably say, is it necessary to do a spell to thin the veil? It's more about you becoming more sensitive and training in being sensitive to vibrations. Is it's not so much about thinning veils, it's more about you becoming more aware. And so working on magic that's going to help you become more aware of the different vibrations and tune into your psychic abilities, and doing various different exercises and training in becoming more sensitive to vibration and tuning into those realms. Okay, don't want the monkey's paw scenario. All right. When we're formulating spells to cast for other people, will we formulate our spells around the emotional experiences of the other person, or will we still focus on your own emotional experience? It is better to focus on your own emotional experience. So you could, if you're doing a spell for somebody, you can just imagine in the spell when you're visualizing how they are reacting when they get what they want, and that they're telling you about it. and how you feel as they tell you, as they come to you and go, hey, the spell worked. I've, met a person, or I've got that job, and wow, it feels really, really good. And then you can feel into how you would feel listening to them tell you of the success of your spell. So that would be a way that you would work to have magic happen for somebody else. So you're still involved, you're still imagining their excitement, but you're also imagining how you feel hearing the good news that it worked, and then you're bringing your emotion into it as well. For any spell, we can qualify the wish with harm to none. Yes, you can do that. You can do harm to none, or for the good of all, um, the best interests of all. Uh, that is a way that you can do it, for sure, if you don't want, if you're a bit concerned about harm to people. I know there's some criticism of that from some magicians, because they'd say, for a job interview, for example, if you were to do a spell and say harm to none or for the good of all, then you may not get the job, because if you get the job, that means someone else doesn't get the job. So there's different arguments there. It's really a matter for yourself, I would say. I'd say use your own discretion when it comes to those things. If you're going for a job interview anyway, you're going to be going with the hope of getting the job over the other people who are applying for the job. So what's the harm in doing a spell to get that job? Can you add harm to none or a similar spell to ensure that money comes to you in a positive way? Yes, absolutely. Yes. And harm to none is probably a good one to do if you are concerned about, the money spells. I think that there's a lot of fear around doing money spells, because uh, we've got such a distorted relationship with money, that a lot of that fear is coming out of that distorted thinking around money, that money's bad in some way, and that wanting money is harmful in some way or bad in some way, when it's not. So it's not like if you do a spell for some money and then, an aunt dies and leaves you an inheritance or something, it doesn't mean you killed your aunt. It just simply means that your aunt's death coincided with when you did the spell, and that was the opportunity that the universe had to bring that money to you. If your aunt wasn't ready to die at that stage, if that wasn't in the aunt's destiny, or within the aunt's unconscious intention, then that money wouldn't have come through the aunt's death. It would have come from another place, if there was a possibility for coming from another place. So if that's what I mean. It's like you're not responsible for someone's death if they leave you an inheritance after you've done a spell. It's just the universe has found that to be the easiest option to bring you the money at that time. If it wasn't their time to go, then the universe would have to find you another option or another way for it to come to you. So it's just things lining up. Yeah. I've taken a bunch of tests in the last few days, and all of them lead to me being a possible empath. Good. I am interested in learning more about this. Yes. So, yes, being an empath is pretty amazing. It is also something that you do have to learn to manage, because you're so sensitive to other people. You can sometimes get lost in other people's emotions and other people's experiences, and it can be hard sometimes to differentiate the difference between theirs and yours. And that's a problem a lot of empaths have. Also, you're probably very sensitive to energy and emotions around you, other people's emotions and, vibrations and things like that. And also, empaths are often taken advantage of a lot by people too, particularly people who are more narcissistically oriented will often try to take advantage of empaths. So it's good to learn how to protect your energy, and to know what's yours and what's someone else's when it comes to emotional energy, because you're more sensitive to it. How well does moon water work from a black moon? Well, there's not a lot of moon in the black moon. So moon water is more from a full moon. So if you want to get the energy of the moon, it needs to be when the moon's projecting or reflecting the light of the sun. So that's what brings the moon water. So if you're leaving water under the moon, it needs to be a full moon to actually get the energy of the moon, because the black moon's not really doing much. That's why in a dark moon we usually we either don't do any magic, because there's not a lot of energy happening. The moon's kind of like not doing too much energetically, or we will choose a waning moon to do magic where we're trying to clear something out, or release something, or let something go, or do a road opener, for example, because the energy's starting to wane. Okay. I've gotten headaches by the end of the day. Yep. And a lot of the times I have to isolate myself because it's too much. Yeah, absolutely. So it's about learning to be able to protect your energy. Okay. So do my dark moon meditation tonight and new moon tomorrow. Yes. Hi, Ishtar. That's okay. So when you've really thought about what it is that you want, you know what it is you want to feel, and you have an idea of all of the different ways that it could come to you. So you know that it can come various different directions. Then it's time to actually craft your spell. And often when you've done that feeling into what it would feel like to have it, the spell actually can often work before you've even actually done the spell. So this is a stage where often things will start to manifest even before you've even started deciding what colored candle you're going to use. That happens a lot because you're already starting to raise your vibration and match what it is that you're wanting to your vibration, and you're already feeling into what it would feel like to have it. So you've already started to change your own energy signature to match what it is that you're wanting to experience, and you're already starting to change the reality around you to be more conducive to showing you and mirroring back to you what it is that you are feeling. So sometimes magic happens before the magic actually happens, which is kind of fun. But spells are really meant to be fun things to do, because you want to do a spell in the energy of receiving, in the energy of knowing that you've got this, that it's already here, and enjoy the process of creating your spell, and enjoy it. Don't labor over it. Don't worry about it. Don't panic over it. Don't think, oh, I'm scared that something's going to happen, I'm going to attract a bad spirit or anything like that. Just bring yourself into that feeling of joy. And you can always create a circle of protection around you. You can always create a sacred space by filling it with light, and all sorts of different methods for being able to raise your vibration and raise the vibration of the space around you when you're doing your spell, so that you're totally focused on bringing in what you want to bring in, and excluding anything that is unsavory energetically. So have a think about what kind of magic you want to do. What sort of supplies have you got on hand? You don't need to spend a lot of money to do magic. I know that some traditions, there's a lot of things that you've got to get that can be hard to get, difficult to get. And magic doesn't need to have all of that stuff in order to be successful, because really the magic's coming from you. And you've always got you. You're not going anywhere from yourself. So that's really the main thing that you need, is yourself. The tools are there to help connect you to the energy and resonate with more energy. The tools are there to help you psychologically get into the state of feeling as if the wish is fulfilled. The tools are there to help you feel like you have the ability to be able to make change in your life. They are often props more than anything. And while they may resonate with what it is you're resonating with, like cinnamon, for example, it can resonate with fast money. It's resonating with that energy. it's also there with the scent helping you feel into that vibe as well. So it's affecting you on a psychological level as well as helping you on an energetic level. And those sorts of things, a lot of the herbs, basic herbs you can get from the supermarket are herbs that you can use in magic, or herbs that you can grow in your garden are herbs that you can use in magic. You don't have to necessarily import particular types of herbs just because they're the ones often used in a lot of traditions. They may not grow where you live. They may not even be in the country that you live in, or you may not even be able to import them. So you need to go with what you can use and be practical with your magic. So have a think about what it is that you want. A lot of the time, candle magic is probably the easiest option because candles can be pretty easy to obtain. Although I know that some people can't have candles in their accommodation. And if you're a student, particularly, you may not be able to have candles in like dorms and things like that and accommodation. So that means that using candles is probably not an option, or using incense is not an option for you. So then you might have to learn how to do sigil magic, for example, or just work with doing things that are more oriented towards design and more abstraction. So it's looking at what you've got available to you. If you don't have anything at all, you've only got a pen and paper, you can use your pen and paper and you can write down what it is that you're wanting to achieve as a petition spell. And a petition spell can either be a poem that you've written that describes what it is that you want, and or it can just be a sentence describing what it is that you want. It's always in the present tense because we're in the present moment. And so when you're writing your spell, you know, there's a lovely little quick spell by Scott Cunningham. It's a little money spell, and it's money flow, money shine, money grow, money's mine. Really simple little spell to attract more money. And it rhymes, it flows, and you can say it over and over and over and over again. Simple little things like that that you can use as a mantra, that you can use as a chant. And so you can then repeat it 3 times, 7 times, 9 times, 100 times. And as you're repeating that little rhyme, then you can really get into the rhythm, get into the alpha waves, and start to feel into the energy of the money flowing, the money growing, the money shining, and that the money is yours, and that you get to keep and do with whatever it is that you want to do with it. And you can put the "and it harm none" in caveat in there too, and feel into what it feels like to feel that. They're great ways to work. Those little mantra sort of spells are really fun. They can be spells that you find in a spell book written by someone else. You can use somebody else's spells in a spell book and just change the wording to be more specific to what it is that you're wanting to bring in. The whole reason that spell books exist is so that you can utilize them. So certainly it's okay to use somebody else's wording. You can just fine tune it to your own wording, or you can just write the sentence of what it is that you want if you're not particularly poetic, and repeat that sentence. I like to repeat my spell verses at least 3 times, depending on the length of the spell, just to get into the feeling of it and to, um, yeah, it's about getting into the feeling of things. So when you know what it is that you want, you just write a sentence or write a little verse or find one in a book that just feels good for you and feels like it's, yes, this is what I want. This is what feels good to me. And have that as your petition, a simple petition spell. You can use a petition with candle magic. You can create a sigil out of a petition and just use that. You can put herbs on your petition. So if you write your spell out on a piece of paper, you can sprinkle it over with herbs. You can put oils on it. You can then burn it. If you've got the candle there, you can burn it, or you can bury it. You can keep it in a spell box. So you might be somebody that has a box where you might put petition spells, And so when you're finished with the spell, it goes in the spell box. And so you keep it that way until it happens. And then once it happens, then you're able to then dispose of it in whatever way you want to dispose of the spell. There's various different ways that you can send that petition off using the elements. When I was learning magic, the spell box kind of represented the earth element. And so you could do that instead of burying it, for example, using the spell box. The fire element, if you're working with fire, would be candle magic. If you're working with incense, it would also be because of the, if you're working with air, you could work with incense and having the particular incense that you're making to be the petition itself, like the candle. Or you could use the smoke of the incense to charge up your petition so that you're bringing the air element into your petition in some way. But all the while you're doing that, as you light your candle, as you roll your candle in the oils or in the herbs, as you're writing your petition, as you're anointing your petition, as you are drawing your sigil, as you're putting it in your spell box, whatever it is that you're doing with your tools, you are feeling into the wish fulfilled. You are feeling into what it feels like emotionally to have what it is that you're wanting. And you're seeing yourself there. So maybe you're seeing yourself in the new home. And as you're doing the spell, you're in the home that you want to be in, the new house. And you're there experiencing what this new home looks like and how it feels, what it smells like. What can you smell? What can you hear? What can you touch? And really bringing all of your senses into the spell as you're experiencing this reality as you're doing the spells. It's kind of like it's sort of faking it until you make it kind of thing with magic. It's about experiencing it before you experience it in the 3D world. You're experiencing it in the emotional astral world, and that will help bring it into your 3D world. So know what you need, then gather your supplies. Know what phase of the moon, too, that you need to work with. So if you're wanting to bring something in or grow something or build something, then you want the waxing phase of the moon. So between the new moon and the full moon. And the closer to the full moon that you get, the more power there is in the energy. And if you want to do a really full-on powerful spell to bring something in, then a full moon is a good time to do that spell. I know that a lot of astrologers see the full moon as being a time of discarding or focusing on what you want to get rid of because it's going into a waning moon phase after that. But it's going into the waning moon phase after that. When it's full, it's at its absolute height in power. And that's where if you want a lot of energy in your spell, then the full moon is a really good way to put a lot of energy into a spell to manifest something. So don't forget the full moon can be there to really give your spell a good push, especially if you're wanting to manifest something within a shorter space of time. Then doing it pretty much near the full moon or on the full moon is a really good time to do it. Whereas if you're wanting to grow something slowly or you're wanting to build something that you know is going to take some time, then you could start closer to the new moon or more into the first part of the waxing moon cycle. If you're wanting to open a road, if you're wanting to remove obstacles, then your waning moon or clean something up or finish something off, then the waning moon is the time to do that. And around the dark moon is a good time to have a holiday, I think, for magic. Okay, I'm just going to go back up here because I know that I've missed some things. How do I get someone to talk to me? They got mad and they quit talking to you. So you don't have the opportunity to apologize or explain. I guess you could always do a spell to create an opportunity for them to be able to listen to you, to open them up to listening to you, perhaps. That is the best way to do that would be to imagine that you are talking to them and what it feels like to talk to them, and to how would that feel if you were having that conversation to them and you were able to tell them whatever it is that you wanted to tell them. And just imagine yourself in that situation where you are talking to them, and imagine yourself in that situation every day. That's probably the gentlest way to work that, rather than necessarily doing a formal spell to do it, is just imagine that you're in that situation where you are talking to them, what that feels like to be able to communicate to them whatever it is that you're wanting to communicate with. It is a form of magic, but it is a form of magic that is probably the easiest thing to do in that case. Just off the top of my head. New moon is supposed to be good for setting intentions. Yes, that's right. It's good for setting intentions, and doing spells for new things. I would say give the person space. Yeah. Yeah. You want to just put yourself in that situation where you are feeling into what you want to feel and just allowing it to happen when it happens, when it comes to that person not talking to you. What's the best way to charge a crystal for spell work? Just put your energy and intention into it. So hold your crystal in your hand. I don't have one near me at the moment. Yes, I do. I've got this tourmaline. Hold it in the palm of your hand. You can give it a bit of a rub to energize it, to wake it up. And then just focus your intention through the palms of your hand. So it's like you've got this energy going into the palm of your hand and what your intention is. And just focus that energy into the crystal, and then tell the crystal what it is that you want it to do. So if it was tourmaline, for example, it would be tourmaline for protection, and then feeling that protection, that sense of protection and security, and what that feels like going into the tourmaline, and just feeling into what it feels like to feel safe and protected energetically. And the tourmaline will then get the emotional energy and understand what it is that it's doing from that emotional energy. Lacking confidence. Oh, hang on, where am I now? Some empaths have to wear a hat most of the time because the head is like an antenna. Okay. I didn't know that. But it is a good way, I guess, to protect yourself, is to have a bit of like a magical hat that you wear. If you like hats. I was lacking confidence in feeling that my spell work comes to I was lacking confidence in feeling that my spell work comes to fruition. So I did a color candle magic to help with my confidence. Awesome. Yes. So if you find that you're lacking the emotion to help you with your spell work, then doing a spell for that is helpful. Like doing a spell to open your heart, for example. If you're looking for love, but you find that you tend to close your heart off out of fear of rejection or fear of abandonment, then you're going to need to open your heart first before you're going to be able to have a relationship with somebody else. So you might need to do the spell on yourself first, that kind of thing. And the same would be too, that if you've had an argument with somebody and that person doesn't want to talk to you, then having a look at, maybe what you said and how you said it, and how maybe you could do things differently next time, or what it is that you could change in your delivery, or whatever it is. If there is, if that person's not just ignoring you to manipulate you, which some people do, to look at, okay, what can I do within myself to work within bringing in more love and more forgiveness within myself, for myself, so that then radiates out of you, because you're working with yourself and loving yourself. Okay. Okay, cool. So you've had amazing results from doing the confidence spell. Yes, yes. So work on yourself first. It was a fun spell to do. If I didn't enjoy the spell or felt strongly about the purpose, I wouldn't have gotten the results. Absolutely. You've got to enjoy the spell. You've got to feel into the joy of doing the spell. Dollar store has everything we need. It certainly does. Dollar stores have candles. That's all you need. Um, ribbon. If you want to work with color, you can work with ribbons. Use your creativity. Anything goes in magic when it comes to creativity. If you know what your correspondences are, uh, then you just go with whatever you can do. Even if writing a verse is all you can do, you've only got pen and paper, you're not good with sigils, just write it down and work with that. Feel into the wish fulfilled. Do something ritualistic with the piece of paper that you wrote it down. So if you bury it in a pot plant, uh, do something that connects you to letting the intention go then at the end of it. I live in the dollar store. It's better to use the energy of tools rather than depleting your own energy. Yeah, but you can grab the energy that you're using is the energy that you're grabbing from the universe. So if you're doing like tree breathing, for example, where you're bringing the energy in through the top of your head, or you're bringing the energy up through the earth, then you're channeling the energy rather than using your energy. So yes, the tools can certainly help with that, like your herbs and your candles. But if you're wanting to bring your own energy in, with which often you have to do with talismans or anything like that too, you channel that energy up through the earth, or channel it in through the pores of your skin, so that you're using the universal chi energy and you're not depleting your own energy. So yes, that's a good point. Um, okay. Hobby Lobby. Okay, it's a hobby shop. Yeah, art supply shops are really good. Okay. Uh, is it true olive oil can substitute any oil? They say olive oil is the crystal quartz of oils. Is that true? Olive oil has very positive qualities about it. So it's really good for money spells. It can be used for love spells. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Olive oil is a carrier, one of the carrier oils too. So the carrier oils can be used for almost everything as well. So yeah, give olive oil a try if you don't have any of the other oils, particularly for love magic and money magic, health magic. Powerfully insightful. It touches on everything I've been learning about recently and experiencing. Awesome. Is it true roses can substitute any flower? I don't know about that. Roses tend to be quite specific towards that loving energy. But if you wanted to use that for healing, for example, you can use the healing energy, the love energy, sorry, from the rose for the healing. So you could channel that rose energy of love and passion into a healing function. So you could work with it that way. Um, what's the best spell book to buy at the moment? Oh, depends. I still like, Judica Illis, I think her name is. Um, the big book, the 5,000 spell book. It's good for materials. It's not great for, like, there's no verses or anything in there. There's only, like, the materials for various different things. The only problem, of course, with that book is that it is, specific to, uh, I guess, the Northern Hemisphere cold climate, because a lot of the herbs and stuff come from, um outside of Australia anyway, but they're probably accessible in the US and possibly in the European countries as well. Um, but it is good. I was trying to think of other spell. I don't know any modern ones. I haven't actually looked at any modern spell books for a while, so I don't know what the latest ones are, for example. Once you know what you want, there are so many options to how to proceed. So how do you decide how you will go about casting the spell? You need to be specific about what you want. So How you cast the spell is more about what you have available to you. So that the actual spell, it doesn't matter if it's a sigil spell, a candle spell, petition spell, or whatever. You want to be able to put what your intention is in a sentence at least. So if you can define what it is that you want in a sentence or two, that is how you go about doing the spell from there. So you'll know that, okay, this is going to be a love spell, for example. So what corresponds to love? Okay, the color's pink, the color red. So maybe I could use, if I wanted to make a, do I want to have the spell on me when I go out to social occasions and meet people? So maybe you might want to make a talisman, or maybe you might want to make like a magical pouch, or something that you can wear and take with you. So is that something that you might want to do? Would that be a good idea to have it something you can take with you? When it comes to money spells, maybe it's a good idea to have something that you can carry in your wallet or your purse or your bag, so that it's with you all the time. So maybe you want, again, a talisman, or maybe you want to anoint your paper money and go back to trying to use cash again so that you can circulate the paper money out there. Do it that way. Is it something that is more specific to your home? So maybe you're just wanting to bring something into your home. Once again, you could make a thing like a talisman and have an object. Or if you're just wanting to do a spell that you're not carrying with you anywhere, it's something you're sending out to the universe, you don't feel you need to take it with you, then you could just do a candle spell or any of those spells that don't require you to make a bag or make a talisman or an amulet or something like that. So it's really like, what do you want to do and what do you feel would be the best thing for you to do? It's not always practical to carry something with you, for example, and it may not necessarily be something you need to do. Um, it could be enough just to enchant something that you leave at home, like for a job interview, for example, enchanting, having a special resume that's enchanted. So you put all the herbs and the oils and everything over a particular resume that you've printed out and leaving that on your altar. And then if you do go to a job interview in person, and I mean, these days you send everything through the internet. So you've got the paper copy that's enchanted, and then you connect that to all of the other copies of that, whether it's in Cyberland or one that you actually physically take with you that probably no one's going to look at. So that kind of thing. So what do you want to do? Do you want to, is it a take with you spell, or is it just something that you can send out to the universe and then just see what happens there? It just depends on the spell. Okay, once you know what you want, there are so many options. Oh, that's what I've just read that one. Can you make up your own correspondences? Like rosemary is for calming. Yep, sleep and memory. But can I make up that it's good for protection or friendship, since that's something I associate it with? Well, yeah, because rosemary is good for protection. And any herb that's good for love and relationships is good for friendships as well. So if you're wanting to bring more friends into your life, or nurture friendships with people, then, and rosemary is something that you find you really connect with, that aspect of rosemary, then yeah, certainly do that. Are you live every week at this time? Yes, I am. What makes a spell, and how a spell is different from ritual ceremonies and rites? So a spell is just simply different because a spell is a ritual. So it's a ritual. A spell is a ritual, because you do certain things in a certain order and for a certain thing, so for a certain outcome. So it is a ritual, just like cleaning your teeth is a ritual. It's a process that you do. So it's automatically a ritual. It's automatically a ceremony too, because you're doing a ceremony in cutting the herbs or anointing the candle, writing your petition out, saying your petition, lighting the candle, saying your petition, burning the petition, if that's what you're doing. So it's also a ceremony. And it's also, I guess, a rite, but rites tend to be more to do with celebrations or connections with deities or seasons where there isn't necessarily an intention of getting something out of it. So I think what really differentiates a spell is that you're doing it to get a result. It's a goal that you're after to get a particular result. Whereas a rite can just simply just be for the joy of celebrating something or to connect with something. It's not about trying to make something happen, which a spell is about. So that makes sense. Can meditating on the end result of the intention, say 3 times a day for 21 days, while intermittent fasting and eating a clean fruit and vegetable diet be enough to manifest? You don't have to go to those extremes. 21 days is good to build a habit. 21 days is good for you to build the sense of the wish fulfilled. So, doing it whenever you think of your spell, whenever you think of your intention, it's best to then go into feeling as if the wish is fulfilled, rather than necessarily making a time to actually go in and do it. So if you were doing it 3 times a day, then what happens for the rest of the day? It's like for the whole day, whenever you remember, you've got to be in the feeling as if it's already happened. That's where you do the spell and forget about the spell. You forget about it, and then you get on with just feeling as if it's already happening. It's already done. It's a done deal. And maintaining that feeling on a daily basis will, for 21 days, will help bring that into your subconscious mind and make it more of a reality in your subconscious mind. But you've got to be careful when you're doing those sorts of law of attraction exercises that you're not coming from a place of lack with that. It's like, "Oh, I've got to do this intention so that I get such and such." You're kinda not in the wish fulfilled in the moment. You're in the future of it still having to come to you. You wanna just be, "Oh, I remember I'm thinking back now to the spell for that. Okay, I'm feeling into what that feels like to actually have that and experience that." And when I take an action, I'm gonna be taking an action from the place of already having the wish fulfilled. So, for example, if you are doing a spell for a relationship, what would you do differently in your life today if you already had that relationship? Like, what would be different about something you'd say or something a place you'd act from? How would that be different? How would you think differently about something if you were already in that relationship? I mean, fair enough, there's things you probably can't do until you have the thing, obviously. If you can't drive a car if you don't have a car. But if you can try and imagine and think and feel from that place of already having a car and being able to drive it, what would you be doing? And try to bring it into your reality as much as you can. That's really the trick with law of attraction, rather than sort of being, like, regimented about it, and often that sort of bypasses the subconscious mind. Okay. So herbs for cleansing. Herbs for cleansing. Um, Rosemary's great for cleansing. Um, I like to use eucalyptus tea tree, which is a type of eucalyptus. And just trying to think of things that you can buy at the supermarket. Basil is actually good for cleansing too. And in fact, when you look at most oils, essential oils and herbs have a cleansing element to them. There's very few that don't have a cleansing element to them. So you can use almost any herb to cleanse. And even the essential oils, a lot of them are antibacterial. Pretty much all of them are antibacterial to some degree. So they all have a cleansing aspect to them. So use the ones that you have access to. I like to use rosemary. I like to use eucalyptus. I like to use There's dragon's blood resin. That's good to use as well. Salt, just using salt is a good cleanser. Very simple using salt. Okay. What if it's a herb that has absolutely no connection to the correspondence or purpose you want to use it? Like rosemary can be good for something totally unrelated to what it has commonly. I don't know. I've never tried doing that. So I can't say from experience what the result would be, because a lot of the result is actually coming from us. So, yes, whilst the herbs are helpful, there are a lot of people out there that manifest without using herbs or any tools. They just use their imagination and the law of assumption, and they manifest lots of really, really wonderful things. So it may not matter in the greater scheme of things. Uh, it might be more about what we put into the relationship with the herb, rather than the herb doing it itself. It's us. It's us and our relationship to what we're working with that signals the energy. It's not the thing itself. Um, putting, say, sprinkling cinnamon in your wallet is probably not going to bring you money unless you sprinkle cinnamon in your wallet with the intention that you're feeding your wallet, and then it might bring you some more money. So it's always got to come from us. It's not coming from the thing itself. It's us giving it an intention or giving it its purpose. So yes, you might be able to do that. Try it and see. Let me know. Goetia, is it effective to incorporate the spirits in our spell work? I've never used the Goetia. I'm not really into ceremonial magic like that. A lot of people find it very effective. So if you want to incorporate it, give it a go and see how you go. There's nothing wrong with incorporating other, like deities, for example. I work with deities in my spell work, and the elements sometimes in my spell work as well. So it's I still get the same results, really, whether I do or whether I don't. So it's something to try. If you love working with spirits, like you feel like you're co-creating, you've got help there, and it feels good. You're someone who likes to work with other beings because it just feels good to work with other beings, and maybe you feel that it's more successful. You feel more like you've got more people on your team working with you, then certainly go for that. Some people are more social workers when it comes to doing magic than others. Some people are very introverted and don't work with spirits at all, or deities at all, and other magicians and witches are more extroverted and like to have other spirits to work with and have a team to work with. So I think it really just depends on the individual. Mostly negative spirits, yeah. Yeah, look, it's really up to you. Uh, just know who you're working with and what the outcomes of that can be if you don't really know how to handle those kinds of spirits. You don't have to work with dark spirits to get a result from something. There's no need to work with them. Um, some people just work with them because that's what they resonate with and who they like to work with. But it doesn't mean that you have to work with them in order to get a result. It's not necessary. It's just up to people who they like to work with. Like everyone, we have a certain affinity for certain people, and so we tend to gravitate towards those people. And same with magic. People tend to gravitate towards certain types of spirits because that's something that they personally resonate with for whatever reason, and so they work with them. Yes, they can be useful in healing, and it's all up to how you work with them and what you want them to do. Exactly. So it's up to you and what you know of them and how you want to work with them. Yeah, because you can work with say demons, for example, in positive ways. Like look at Boone, for example. Boone can bring money, and it can bring money in good ways. So they're not always bad. Any ideas for an easy spell to inspire someone to pursue you romantically? The best way to have somebody pursue you romantically is for you to cast a spell on yourself to feel into more of a sense of what it feels like to be pursued romantically and feel wanted, feel good about yourself, feel attractive, feel love for yourself. So you could do an attraction spell to help so that you feel more attractive, and that you are then, as a result of feeling more attractive, you will be more attractive. So work on yourself. When it comes to relationship magic, it's best to always work on yourself first so that you're feeling lovable, you're feeling valuable, you're feeling attractive, and work with you. Um, it's it's really better to work that way. If you have a particular person that you're wanting to attract, I would advise against trying to put a spell on someone else to be attracted to you, because there's a whole lot of reasons why that isn't a good idea. And it's not all necessarily from any ethical or moral reason. It's just simply because things should happen organically when it comes to love and attraction. And if you feel that you've got to force somebody to be attracted to you, then what does that tell you about the relationship to begin with? Um, Work on you feeling lovable, feeling attractive to everyone, including yourself, and then see who comes, who is then attracted to you. And they might be a better option, and they might be more suitable to you. They might be the right person, whereas this other person may not be. A lot of times we're attracted to people that actually aren't the best for us, um, because the subconscious mind has got a belief about how good or bad we are, or what we deserve or what we don't deserve. And often we're looking for the other person to somehow reinforce that. And if we're trying to force somebody to become attracted to us or love us in some way, it's generally because we feel that we're lacking that in ourselves. And so that's really a good place to do the shadow work and to have a look at what it is that you are feeling the lack of within yourself and building that up within yourself. And then that person might become attracted to you, or someone else who might become attracted to you. But it's really allowing yourself to attract the right person to you and loving yourself first. And that goes with anything we're wanting to attract: success, money, career. We have to feel that first. We have to feel that we are that thing, or that person who has those things or does those things first, before we can then really have a profound effect on what goes on around us. So that the magic is like the beginning of that. It's to help us create that feeling within ourselves. That's what the magic's there to do. Hear a lot about how to do magic, but there's a lot that doesn't feel right to me. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it to achieve the things I want and need. Yeah. There's a lot of myths around magic. Um, and I think too, because we've been so exposed to television and movies where magic is always seen as being this miraculous thing that you just do a spell and then bang, all this stuff happens. Uh, a lot of us believe, even subconsciously, that that's how magic works, and magic doesn't quite work that way. uh, if it did, there'd be a lot of the world would be a very different place. I think, if magic did work that way. It's more about the true magic. And if you look at all of the esoteric traditions, they all say this. The magic is actually ourselves working on ourselves, and how we create our own world from the world we're experiencing within ourselves. And when we change ourselves, the world around us changes. And that's what magic is. It's not about, oh, I want to learn how to do some spells so that I can start manipulating the people around me. And a lot of us, including myself, have come from that place originally, because we want things to work out for us and we want things to be easier. And so magic looks like an easy option, but it's not an easier option. It it demands time, it demands resources, and it also demands that we actually start to have a relationship with ourselves and learn more about ourselves so that we can create magic that's really bringing us what it is that we want to have. And that's something that they don't talk about in the movies. I don't work with Hecate in all of my spell work. I work with her in some of my spell work, but not all of my spell work. I don't always do spells. I do a lot of law of assumption type of work where I am constantly feeling into the wish fulfilled, even if I'm just sitting here working at the computer. It's feeling into what it is that I'm wanting to manifest as if I'm already manifesting it. So I'm kind of trying to work the magic whenever I remember to do it. So it's like a constant thing. When it comes to spell work, it would be to initiate the process or to initiate the situation, and then feeling into and acting as if it's already happening afterwards, and then allowing it to happen. Sometimes spells can be really simple little things that do happen immediately. You don't have to put a lot into it. Other times it's really about trying to make big changes, then the big changes need to happen from within first. Okay. Any ideas for an easy spell? Oh, no, I just saw that one. Do a guided meditation on clairvoyance. Okay, that's a good idea, Stephanie. How do you start to work with a deity? Do you have to call out to them in some way? Yes. So you can call on them to work with you. Some deities have got different traditions behind them, and they may even have invocations that are already out there. For example, there are prayers to, I guess you call them prayers or chants to Hecate that you can find that are from the various different writings concerning Hecate, or you can simply just ask them, write a verse yourself and ask them to be present with you. So set up a circle, set up a sacred space, a magical space. Make sure that it is a space that is sacred and at a high vibration, and ask that deity to be present. Ask them to come to be present with you. Give them an offering of some sort. So if you know what sort of offerings are historical to them, like for example, Hecate can be like eggs and honey, pomegranates, that kind of thing, then you would maybe offer a supper for Hecate on a dark moon. Look at the history and the mythology around the deity, and you'd get an idea of what sorts of things you might want to include in an offering, and what time of the moon, if they're a lunar deity or if they're a solar deity, that might be best suited. And then just simply ask in a very polite way uh, to be present, and see what happens. If they're already attracted to you, but there's obstacles. If there's obstacles in the way of something, then do a road opener or an obstacle removing spell on a waning moon. So look at that first, because if it's an obstacle that's in the way, you want to remove the obstacle. If it's distance, for example, or things that you're both wanting to remove, then yeah, do an obstacle removing spell. But just make sure you know what the obstacle is so that you're still coming to it from a place of positive magic rather than negative magic. If it's simply like distance or a situation or something like that, then you'd want to remove the obstacles with harm to none. Life is as magical as you make it. Yep. So make it magical. Absolutely. Is it ethical to perform illusion or stage tricks to help someone believe in the magic enough for a spell to work for them? Oh, okay. That's interesting. So if you're doing a spell for somebody else, and of course they need to believe in the spell for it to work. If I think that's what you're saying, kind of thing. To believe in the magic enough for the spell to work for them. Okay. If your intention is strong and you're really good at sending energy, they don't necessarily need to believe in magic for the spell to work. You don't have to have a belief in magic for magic to work. It's it's the result that you've got to believe in. Um, it's the belief that it's already there, that it's already happening, that you've got to believe in, not the magic itself. You don't need to believe in magic. There's been experiments done with intention and healing, where people have been non-believers in healing, but they've been taught to do a healing exercise, not really told uh, why the experiment was happening, because these are like proper experiments. And the healing still occurred, even though the healing was being done by people who didn't believe in healing. But they were simply carrying out the process of healing, feeling into the wish fulfilled, but not believing in healing or believing in magic, and the results still happened. So try helping the person feel into the wish fulfilled, and that might help them with it, rather than trying to get them to believe in magic as such. Can you bring a spirit into the physical spell? Into the physical spell? You mean like a spirit house or something? Um, so you can make like a spirit house and work with spirits that way. Some people do that. I don't do a lot of that, so that's not something that I've done a lot of. Into the physical body. Oh, spirit into. Can you bring a spirit into the physical spell? Oh, bring a spirit into the physical. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Manifest into a physical. That's probably. Well, you can certainly do that. I know people do that with statues and things, bring spirits, but often that causes the spirit then to be trapped in that object. So you don't really want to trap anything necessarily, because a lot of the haunted objects that you might have seen or listened to podcasts about, which are quite fascinating, are the result of spirits being brought into like an object, in then that spirit sort of stays connected to that object, and they're kind of trapped in that object then, and that object then becomes like a haunted object. There's some really fun stuff on the internet that you can look at with museums of haunted objects. So if you're in the US, I don't know whereabouts, what city this. There's a couple of museums anyway that you can go, and they've got haunted objects in them. So okay. Worked with the triangle of manifestation as in ceremonial magic? No, I haven't worked with ceremonial magic in that way. I'm not that interested in a lot of the sort of formalities when it comes to ceremonial magic. It's kind of just not my thing. I like more earth-based magic and working more with herbs and candles, and rather than a lot of ceremony and working in that genre, I guess. And it's just a personal preference. Different people suit different ways of working. Okay, so just moving on. So you can also think about, if you're really wanting to get pedantic about things, you can look at times of the day, like what time of the day is best for magic. Sometimes if you're wanting to create something or grow something new, then doing magic in the morning can be a good time. If you're just wanting to work with very general day stuff, if you're getting more into some other types of magic, you can even go by the planetary hours. That's getting quite advanced, and but a lot of people, particularly if you're working, I think, with the Goetia, or if you're working with more ceremonial magic, you may be more inclined to work more with the planetary hours. That's entirely up to you. Often people who like to charge tools like to charge them according to planetary hours and astrology. So if you're really into astrology, then the planetary hours might make more sense to you. But I found that it's probably, I don't know if it's necessary to have to wait for a Thursday to do something in the hour of Jupiter um, on a waxing moon in order to bring something to you. You may not actually be available at that time. It's not always practical to work according to the planetary hours, and so it's not a necessity, but it is something that if you know about it, you might want to incorporate into your magic. Days of the week as well, you might decide that if you want to do money magic, a Thursday, a Sunday is good, a Friday is good, day of Venus. So if you're wanting to work with astrology, do you want to work with the days of the week and that kind of thing? Uh, and if you're looking at then raising energy, which you'll probably find in some spell books, raising the energy is the emotion. It's being in the wish fulfilled. So how do you feel more in the wish fulfilled? Using your visualization and visualizing yourself experiencing the situation, hearing somebody talk to you about the situation. So if you're doing as I said earlier, if you're doing a spell for somebody else and you imagine that you're there and they've come and they've rung you up and they've texted you or something and told you, hey, your spell worked. It's this has happened and I'm really excited. Put that into your energy creating, your raising of energy. Put that into your visualization and feel what the emotion feels like when you do that. Some people like to dance, like to use movement, and that can often bring in more of a sense of joy, more of a sense of being uplifted. And so as you're imagining the wish fulfilled, you're also moving and dancing with that. Some people like to use drumming or music to enhance that because music can bring you into a stronger emotional state and have you feeling excited or having you feeling joy. And so you can incorporate those into your raising of energy. Even just walking around the circle, chanting your spell is a way of raising the energy and feeling the energy. And as you're feeling into the wish fulfilled, and then when you feel that that energy has reached a climax, then you can just then let it go. And the letting it go can be simply clapping your hands 3 times. It could be knocking on your altar 3 times. It can be burning the petition is a way of letting the energy out and enjoying doing that, or just sit in front of your candle and just feel into the wish fulfilled is another way of raising the energy. The energy is emotional, essentially. So that's what you're wanting to build. It's not that you're wanting to have an over sense of emotion. You want to have the emotion that you would have if it already happened. So that's the emotion you want. It's happened. Like you're looking back on it having happened. So you can even, if you're not sure what that emotion's going to be, you could just imagine yourself in the situation and you're looking back at, oh yeah, I remember when I didn't have that. Or, oh yeah, I remember how I felt before, I met this person. And then looking back on that as if it's already happened. How do you feel in that moment of looking back when you didn't have it? And then knowing what it feels like to look back now that you do have it. That's another way that you can try and find that emotion so that you can use that in your spell work. So if you like to dance, dance. If you like to drum or play music, play music. Any way that you can get yourself into that suggestive state. So what the dance does, the music does, it puts you into a bit of a trance state. And when you're in a trance state, your subconscious mind is ready to go. And it's the subconscious mind that you're trying to influence with your magic and with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And put that into the subconscious mind that this has already happened. It's already been achieved. It's happening right now. And your subconscious mind will start to believe it because it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And then it will start bringing you people, situations, ideas that will help you then get to that goal. Okay. Do you have to do an amount of research before starting your first spell? No, no, you just need to know what you want and what you want to feel. Be clear about that. And if you want to do something really, really simple, I mean, you can research your correspondences. If you want to use tools, research your colors, research the herbs. You can do that kind of research. You could find a spell on the internet or something close and copy that spell or tweak it as whatever suits you as well. It's another way to do it. But you don't necessarily need to do a whole lot of work you don't want to be putting, you don't want to necessarily do a whole lot of work for just one thing, like for one outcome, unless it's a huge outcome. You want to look at what it is that you're putting your time and effort into and how much time you want to spend on it as well. And then after you've done your spell, you want to forget about having done the spell, feel into the wish fulfilled, and then listen for any inspiration and respond to that inspiration. You might get a phone call. You might get a friend texting you saying, hey, I do want to go out on Friday night to a party. Or you might get things coming in, ideas, write them down. You might see something on YouTube that's going to inspire you towards something, and then you go and investigate that and something comes from that. You might find that if there are easier ways for the universe to bring things to you, they will just land on your doorstep or across the road. Or the experiences that I've had where things happen. Just take notice of all of the things that happen, I guess, after you've done your spell, as you feel into already achieving the wish fulfilled, and allow the spell then to guide you as to what the next step is to be able to bring it into fruition. And if you do need to do another spell for the next stage in your spell, if it's a big plan, then you'll know then to do a spell. So if you're wanting to make, say, a side hustle, and maybe you want to do something on YouTube or something, you want a YouTube channel as a side hustle, that means then you might get the idea to maybe get a little bit of extra money coming in through YouTube. And so you can do spells then to help, build your channel or get more ideas for content, that kind of thing. So just allow the magic to work after that. Okay, so this has been a really long one today. I didn't realize the time. So I'm going to let you all go and go and have some breakfast. And so hopefully there's some things to think about. I've got the spellcaster checklist in the link in the description field. So if you want to grab a copy of that, it's free to download from my website. If you do want to learn Wicca and Witchcraft with me, you can also find all that information out on this channel as well as on my website, mysterywitchschool.com. There's training there in Wicca and Witchcraft that's bringing witchcraft into your life on a daily basis, connecting to yourself and nature and spirit, but really just trying to bring this stuff into your daily life so that it can really bring you that connection to yourself and your purpose and the joy in life. And that comes from practicing the craft. It doesn't come from reading about it. It comes from practicing it. So that's why I teach the way that I do. So if you are interested in learning Wicca, Witchcraft with me, the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy is the place for that. And there's a link in the description field below for that as well. Okay. Yeah, it's 11 a.m. in Australia. Yep. Well, in Queensland anyway. So thank you. Blessed be everyone. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.